but one of the best tools that we've ever had to help people with weight loss. You mean when you go back to doing all the stupid fucking shit you were doing before, you're gonna gain the weight back? Shocker. That's all shit that we talked about some months ago that's now going mainstream. Let's check out this. It's not a long video, but we'll check out some parts of it. Who else did we point out did the same fucking thing? Greg Doucette. And Troy, don't you recommend supplements? I recommend vitamins! To have somebody with his background standing up and pushing back against this bad information out there. There's always been this discussion about people on Snap. This Joe Rogan clip actually describes it. So
That's obviously not good for you. Like, why would they encourage that?
That's the question. Why would they encourage that? Well, let me tell you why. Not only is that not a good plan, why would the American Heart Association be against stopping that? So that gets into our next segment, which is MAGA, baby. This is like within the last couple days, this popped up that this happened. You have a crazy, lunatic, overweight, liberal woman, unattractive, because they always are. No offense, dude. Why you running? Because she's a woman? I believe in equality.
Hell yeah. Actual equality.
Actual equality. I am going to treat you just like I would a dude. Be careful. I'm just a warning. Be careful fucking with the guy in the MAGA hat, because sooner or later, you're gonna fuck with the wrong MAGA. This doesn't end well unless it ends. Can't just report the fucking obvious. Just a motherfucking jump. Just go. Let's fucking go. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy, and the other fucking guy somewhere in the room, hiding. We're going to bring him out of hiding soon. Is Chase. Chase, what's up, bro?
Not much, man. How are you doing today?
You know, the weeks keep flying by so fast. We almost at the end of March, man.
Hell yeah, man.
We just started this year.
It went by. This month went by. I feel like went by super quick. And then especially
super fast.
Having Maurice coming up this weekend too. If you
Man, I am stoked for that. I am stoked. Maurice Green gonna join us here in our little humble abode,
Hell
our
yeah,
little
man.
studio here, and get to talk about his journey. And it's gonna be a big deal.
Hell yeah.
It's going to be a big deal. I appreciate it so much. So let's just get right into it, because this is going to, I really want to, the things I have today are really important to me. And I'm tired of the OZEMPIC bashing, really. And it's been going on for a minute, and going on from people that just have no idea, have no clue, don't want to have a clue. The real information is out there. They distort things because, you can get attention right now, and it really doesn't stick to you. When you're wrong, and you can be on the wrong side, and you can be really loud for a minute and get attention, and when people finally realize you're wrong, it's not going to hurt you that much. That's the way it seems. It just doesn't hurt very much. And they'll bring those people back on and give those people a platform again, because maybe they're aligned the same. And that's what it's about. So you have these two camps. You have this camp that absolutely believes that semaglutide and GLP-1s are maybe one of the best drugs. I don't like to call them drugs because they're peptides. But one of the best tools that we've ever had to help people with weight loss. Now, it would be great if everybody could just be disciplined and want to count all their fucking calories and write it all down and be gung-ho about exercising, but it's just not the case. And we have to live in reality. And with that being the case, this is a tool that works. I get asked all the time by people, if I have phentermine or other things, or can direct them to be able to get some of the old weight loss drugs that used to be used, that were stimulants, that everything has a potential side effects, but the side effects with those were much happen more often and were greater. And if somebody really wants to evaluate risk, produced that they were higher risk as well. And I'm not trying to badmouth that. You know, I still recommend clenbuterol to people at certain points and things like that. But for overall, just weight loss, when we've been struggling with this for decades now, and we're at an epidemic level. This is our MAHA segment, by the way. Make America Healthy Again. Woo!
Got to throw it in there.
Got to throw that in there. That is it. We've been struggling with this for a long, long time. And there's no magic diet. There are many diets that work. Now, there's some horrible motherfucking diets, okay? Like horrible diets. There used to be like a cabbage soup diet.
Cabbage soup
Because it had no fucking calories, man.
I mean,
the
yeah,
cabbage
yeah.
gave it a flavor, I guess. And if that's all you're eating for a week,
That's
you're
rough.
going to lose some
rough.
motherfucking weight
Yeah.
because you're not taking in any fucking calories. It's not the best way to lose 10 pounds,
Yeah.
but it'll probably work.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about things that work long term. Weight Watchers comes to mind. It's a good program. Worked. You know, you get good support in the groups, and if you follow it, you're going to lose weight. Now, but Weight Watchers is terrible because when you stop Weight Watchers, you're going to gain all the weight back. You mean when you go back to doing all the stupid fucking shit you were doing before, you're going to gain the weight back? Shocker.
Didn't realize that's how it works.
You know, like, I mean, you just need to find foods that fit in with what you're willing and able and capable of doing. And I guarantee you, there's something out there for you. There's something out there for you. I'm a picky ass motherfucker when it comes to food. And I find a way. I find a way not, and I don't get to eat broccoli. I eat very little cauliflower. You know, I do the cauliflower rice. But other than that, I just like eating cauliflower. I don't like cauliflower, really.
Who does, honestly, though?
Well, apparently some people, because they package that shit up and put ranch dip with it.
I guess
somebody's
you are right.
eating
Yeah,
it.
you are right. You are right.
But I'm just saying, that's not my thing. Asparagus. Dawn loves asparagus. I don't like asparagus. And I don't necessarily want to smell asparagus piss either.
No, that is a thing.
It's a thing.
It is a thing for sure.
So there's not many vegetables I like. I love corn, but
Yeah, but
corn
don't
isn't
digest it.
great like for digestion. If corn was good for digestion, you wouldn't shit out hunks of motherfucking corn. That shit doesn't digest at all. But it tastes good
It does.
with butter and salt.
Hell yeah.
Look, I'm giving it to you. So it's
Talking about butter, though, sorry to cut you
No,
off.
butter's healthy.
I love that shirt you have on. I was just reading it, but I love the shirt.
Thanks.
But anyway, sorry about that.
No, not at all. You know, we can always stop and talk about my fashion sense.
Hell
and
yeah.
what I bring to the table.
No, but yeah, corn with a little
I'm
bit
a
of
green
butter.
bean guy. I'm green beans and potatoes.
That's fair.
That's it.
That is fair.
And I don't eat a lot of potatoes, but I will. I'll eat a raw fucking potato. I've said that like
Yeah,
raw
I remember
potato with
seeing that.
salt, man. That's give me that all day long.
Hell yeah.
Green onions. I like green onions.
Yep.
Used to walk out to my grandpa's garden.
Just
We
pick
as a
them
little
out.
kid, we'd pick them up out of the dirt. We'd wipe the dirt off on our fucking shirt, and we'd chomp
Just
on
eat
that
it.
shit like it was an
Hell
apple,
yeah.
man. Because his would be like this big.
Yeah.
They'd be big on the end. You know what I mean? Yep. Our breath would smell. You could smell that we ate onion from a mile away. But that was good stuff, man.
Fuck yeah.
Good farm kid stuff. But anyways, you can find a way. That's not enough for some people. Some people need a little bit of help. And there is no better, no stronger of tool available to curb appetite. It doesn't burn fat. Okay? Fat burning is a thing. That's not what this tool is. This particular tool, the GLP-1s, your semaglutide, your tirzepatide, and then now the latest retatrutide, those are the strongest appetite suppressants you can use. And Dr. Tina, who I follow and think's great, and she's brought this up a lot about microdosing semaglutide. That's all shit that we talked about some months ago that's now going mainstream. More and more doctors are prescribing it that way and not just the way it was originally introduced to us. And some of the issues that people did have was because of the dose being too high. The other thing is people not listening because they want to lose weight so fast. So they want to get to the higher dose and lose weight as fast as they can. And then we do not want to use these tools to completely shut down your appetite so that you're not eating at all. That is not healthy. And they need proper instruction. I go over that all the time. People need proper instruction. And the number one thing is protein and how much protein they should be getting. And it should be 70 to 80% of whatever their body weight is. They should be getting that in grams of protein. And even now, they're even starting to recommend what bodybuilders have known for a long, long time. And especially if you are going to be active, it's a great idea. 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. We've been doing that for a long, long time, and a little bit more. It's very hard to overeat protein. It just is. And when that's your focus and you get that in, you're only going to have so much room. We're not saying don't eat any carbs, but you're not going to have that room for that much as far as carbs go. And most of the micronutrients and the things that you need to truly survive and survive well and be healthy, it's in the fucking protein. It's in the meat. It's in the meat. And finally, we actually have an administration that's fighting for and going to change things where our food pyramid or our what the government has to say about food is going to be more the truth than what it has been up till now, because they haven't given us the truth. They've badmouthed red meat because they have a certain agenda for climate. Fuck that shit. I just saw somebody doing a story on some country that was going to tax farts. Animal farts. Dude, I did that shit over 15 years ago, 16 years ago on my radio show. It was like
Really?
New Zealand. Yeah, they like
Because
sheep. They were going to tax
because of the carbon dioxide or whatever they produce or whatever.
the farts from
Yeah.
animals. They were going to start taxing.
That's funny.
Like, dude, it's the dumbest shit in the world. And still people are still talking about that shit today.
Yeah.
About people still trying to do that shit. Dumbest fucking shit in the world, man. Animals are not killing us, people. God, I mean, it's just crazy. Well, I got this. Dr. Layne Norton's not like a doctor.
Uh-huh.
He's more of a research doctor.
Okay.
With his PhD.
Mm-hmm.
But he even says that, and even does in here, which is good, that sometimes people hold themselves out as doctors, like Biden's wife did. And she's not a doctor. She had a doctorate in education. But,
Okay, you got to shorten it to make it look like
she
it's
liked being called doctor, though, Get the fuck out of here. But you're listening to the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy. Do us a favor, will you? Hit that subscribe button. We got some big things happening. You're going to want to know about it. The best way that you can is to hit that subscribe button, get those notifications. Have a great week. God bless. I totally agree. This is not a video that I disagree with. This is really something that I agree with. And what I like about Layne Norton is when these GLP-1s really started gaining traction, he was skeptical. And I'm okay with skepticism, dude. It's okay to be skeptical. We should all be skeptical. But as he's looked at the research, as we've gotten more actual hands-on work with people that have actually used these, we truly know now how it works and what works. And this whole bullshit about losing muscle, that they cause you to lose muscle, they do not cause you to lose any more muscle than if you did any other diet. If you did any other diet, you are going to lose muscle.
Sorry, a little late, but
Should I add 10 minutes to that?
Yeah, you're good. Give it a little extra time on.
You're gonna lose muscle, but you don't have to lose muscle. In the same way that you would stop yourself from losing muscle from a traditional diet is the same thing that you would do with using a GLP-1. And in fact, the amount of muscle that you lose in either case is almost identical. It's almost identical. So trying to put this label on OZEMPIC, semaglutide, these GLP-1s, that they cause this muscle loss, well, yeah, just like any other diet, you're eating less. And what you are eating, are you eating enough protein? And are you trying to do some type of fitness activity? Something. You know, and it doesn't take a lot. And I realize some people can't do it, and it's still, this is going to be a good choice for them anyways. But maybe at some point, for the extremely obese, you know, they might have to lose 100 or 200 pounds before they're going to be able to get to a place where they can do more of the physical activity than with it. But it's also a time thing. How fast are you losing the weight? It's up to the person that's doing the consulting, doctors. It's up to them to place the right expectations that a patient should have. To be, look, this is what you should be trying to do. And if we end up losing 5-6 pounds every week, and you should really only be losing 2 or 3, well, we're going to cut the dose back so you don't lose 5-6 pounds a week. And I know that's going to suck in your head because you want to get rid of this fat, but it's not the healthiest way to do it. It's not the way to do it and keep the weight off long term. And you're going to end up with loose skin that's just, you're not going to be happy with. And that's not healthy either. So let's check out this. It's not a long video, but we'll check out some parts of it. And he takes on a chiropractor on his What the Fitness.
Okay. I like the segment name.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? It's Friday, and so you know what time it is. It's time for What the Fitness. Let's get them. I believe we have a new contender. So this is Dr. Josh Axe. Now, I have seen a lot from Josh Axe. I've never had him on What the Fitness, which I'm not sure why, because I've seen a lot of BS out there that he's put out. This is just as good a time as any to have him on. It is important to point out that Dr. Axe is a chiropractor. Now, I am not dogging chiropractic as a whole. I have met good chiropractors who stay in their lane, who follow evidence-based principles. They do exist. But I always find it funny when people put doctor in front of their name, but they're not actually a physician. Because I think, we have a responsibility to the public to understand that when people see DR in front of a name, they automatically think physician, which is why if I ever put DR in front of my name, I put PhD Nutritional Sciences at the end. But usually I just say my name's Layne, or I put Layne Norton, PhD Nutritional Sciences, because I don't want to give the impression that I am a physician, because I am not. But pretty good at reading research and interpreting literature. So let's see what Josh Axe has to say about rapid weight loss. Okay, so this is actually not a video. It's an Instagram post that I'm going to read here. Rapid weight loss sounds appealing until you realize what it's costing you. Drugs like OZEMPIC, Wegovy, and even the new Hims and Hers injections aren't just melting away fat. They're stripping your body of muscle mass, accelerating aging, and putting your long-term health at risk. In clinical trials lasting 68 to 72 weeks, Participants lost over 10% of their muscle mass. That's the equivalent of 20 years of age-related muscle decline. Muscle isn't just about strength, it's about metabolism, longevity, and resilience. Losing muscle means slower metabolism, weaker bones, and faster aging. Weight loss shouldn't come at the cost of your health. The reality is there's no shortcut to sustainable wellness. Just real food, movement, and habits that build you up, not break you down. Before opting for a magic injection, ask yourself, is the price really worth it? Okay. I always find these posts funny from people who knock prescription weight loss drugs, who sell supplements. The GLP-1 mimetics we have, on average, people lose about 15 to 20% of their body weight.
Just a second. Who else did we point out did the same fucking thing? Greg Doucette, right? Oh, don't take steroids like I did to look like this. Don't do that. Take these supplements that I sell, but I maybe take them, but they didn't get me these results. But maybe you can get 10% of the results that real shit will get you. And 10% would be generous.
Yeah.
At that. 10% would be generous at that. Yeah. But Troy, don't you recommend supplements? I recommend vitamins.
It's under the same category. So.
You know, I like my vitamins. I'm not going to apologize for that, but I don't push it. I don't tell people that it's better than, you know, in fact, there is a product, because we've talked about it. There is a product that we talked about, somebody else that had a product on one of their TikToks where it was to promote natural increase in GLP.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was a while back then. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. And, you know, I've seen those. I have the ability, if I wanted to promote it myself, and I don't. Because even though I like the company, I just don't like the concept. And I just know that it's not true that these natural, over-the-counter, GLP, naturally producing things, they don't work. They are nothing like the real thing. The real thing matters. And this is a peptide that's already in your body. It's already in your body. So it's not like we're using something unnatural. It is natural. But go ahead, let him finish a little bit here.
And they keep it off. That is by far the most effective weight loss treatment that we have ever seen. Diet and exercise don't come even close. Now people will say, well, that's because they don't stick to diet and exercise. Okay, true, but we have this thing that I like to do, which is live in reality. We can hand wring and get all pissed off about the fact that people don't follow diet and exercise, or we can accept the reality that a lot of people will not. So what tools do we have to reduce the rates of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and the billions, actually probably trillions of dollars of burden on our healthcare system? Enter GLP-1 mimetics. And he's right. They are not magically stripping fat off of you. These do not enhance your metabolism. They are simply the most powerful appetite suppressants we have ever come across. I always find it funny when people are like, you know, my metabolism just isn't what it was before, so I'm going to take OZEMPIC. Well, then you're going to be really disappointed because OZEMPIC does not increase your metabolism. It simply is a powerful, powerful appetite suppressant. When these first came out, I too was concerned about the loss of lean mass. Now I'm going to point this out. He is talking about muscle mass. The studies he is talking about are looking at lean mass. These are not the same things. Water is lean mass. Undigested food registers as lean mass on the DEXA. Your intestines are lean mass. Your bones are lean mass. Your brain is lean. All that stuff, all non-fat tissues register as lean mass. Even fat tissue is not 100% fat. It actually has 13% lean. So when you lose fat, you should be expecting to at least lose some lean mass because some of your fat tissue has lean mass. Additionally, when you diet, it's normal to lose water weight. It's normal to lose some intestinal mass because you're digesting less food. it's normal to lose a little bit of splanchnic tissue mass. Those things are normal. And in research studies where participants do not resistance train, the amount of lean mass people lose during diet alone with no exercise tends to be about 25 to 40% of the weight they lose is from lean mass, which is almost identical to how much lean mass is lost in people who use GLP-1 mimetics without exercise. Where I want to give him credit is, yes, we should all be exercising, we should all be resistance training, absolutely. But if somebody is not going to do those things, they're just not, but we can get them to take a pill where they lose 100 pounds, they're no longer type 2 diabetic, we drastically decrease the risk of cardiovascular disease, we drastically decrease the risk of cancer and overall mortality, it's better for their life, and it decreases the cost on the healthcare system as a whole. These things do not have to be binary. Just eat real food and exercise, or just take a pill. Why isn't there space for both? I would encourage anyone, if you are taking a GLP-1 mimetic, absolutely resistance train, absolutely eat a high protein diet, absolutely exercise.
And
you should be doing those things.
Right there. And if you go back to the very, very beginning of the Outlaw Apostle Podcast, from the very first times I've talked about semaglutide, whenever I've talked about it, can you name a single time, Chase, when I haven't also mentioned how people should eat and exercise with it?
No, it's
not a single time.
It's the exact same thing every single time.
Every single time.
Oh, yeah.
I repeat myself every single time. And it only takes 2 30-minute sessions a week. That's all it takes to maintain your muscle. That's it. 2 30-minute sessions. And if you really, truly care about yourself and you've tried everything and you're trying this now, why not try it to do it and do it right? You know, I've talked about lifestyle change from the very beginning. And I realize there's some people that are just not going to do the lifestyle change, maybe to start, but I'm still going to stay on them to make the lifestyle change. You know,
You have to.
You have to. That's the job. That's the job, to do it right. You know, and then if people make other bad choices, that's on them. But they can't do it and say, well, I didn't know. No, motherfucker, that ain't going to happen. Not with me. You are going to know, because I'm going to tell you the truth no matter what, because I don't give a fuck. I'm going to tell you.
Hell yeah.
You know, just like that. So I really appreciate this, that he did this, to have somebody with his background and with his research knowledge standing up and pushing back against this bad information out there. Because what you get is you get somebody like that Josh Axe, that chiropractor that posts that stuff. Well, other people are following that guy and they're going to repost it, not because they've also verified his research or did any type of fact checking. They're just going to repeat it.
Yeah.
Oh, doctors say. Well, yeah, you can find a doctor that says. You can find a chiropractor that says. Big fucking
all
deal.
All kinds of people be saying.
You can always find, if you want to, you can find somebody that's going to match what your preconceived notion already is.
Yeah.
And again, that's what I said about him, that, you know, he was skeptical, but he was open. And even things he's been, if you look at other things he's talked about, and that's why I think, you know, I try to also relay to you guys, who does Troy give a shit about? Who does Troy follow? This is somebody that I follow. And that's the reason. And that some stuff that he may have been stuck on or believed for a few years, when there's other new information that's come out, he's been willing to share that and say, you know, I'm changing my mind on this because of this, and this new information is strong enough that and there's enough of it that it warrants that kind of change.
Yeah.
And again, that shows a good person. That's how it works. That's real fucking how real science works. You know, what we think about something today may not be how we think about it later on. But the GLP ones or the peptides in general are not new. The first major peptide was insulin. And insulin has a lot to do with your weight and things. And then when you consider your body and your processes being what these foods have done to your body and the metabolic process, that's the other great thing about the GLP-1s is they heal your metabolic process that it has hurt. So that's what we have for that. We're going to continue with more MAHA today, Make America Healthy Again, because I had a friend who sent me a thing from that his daughter is doing something, and I haven't responded to him yet, but I'm going to. That I think it's for school, and whatever money she raises, maybe it goes to the American Heart Association.
Like
Something
selling
like that.
chocolates or cookies.
Yeah, well,
or
they're not
something
selling.
like
Well, that would kind of be dumb to sell chocolates.
that. I guess you're
that,
not wrong. Yeah.
You know, that would. But I don't know what the thing is. I don't know if he actually told me in there. But I was like, as soon it hit me, like, man, I just heard something recently about the American Heart Association. And so I looked it up and I found what I had seen. And that is overall, there's been a discussion for a while, and this has gone on for a number of years, or going back a number of years too. There's always been this discussion about people on SNAP. Let's just call it what is food stamps.
Gotcha.
The old food stamps. SNAP is food stamps.
Okay.
Right? They're just not stamps anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, they get credit cards.
Yeah, they actually do. Yeah.
I liked it better when they got the
stamps.
Stamps.
Yeah. felt a little more like.
Well, no, I would. You know, you got to remember, man, I was a gangster.
Gotcha.
I used to buy that shit. And other people would buy it and pay like 60 cents or 50 cents on the dollar.
On the dollar, yeah.
I'd pay 60 cents on the dollar.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Get a
I'd
nice little
outbid it.
bargain
So
on
I
it.
would get more people. Troy will give you 60 cents and they'd come over and sell it, you know, to me. And so I was that guy. You know that you ever hear those stories about people showing up to a meat market and walking out with lobster and filet mignon and they use food stamps and they drove a Cadillac?
Yeah.
That was me, motherfucker. The people not realize that
Like what was actually going on?
that people that had money do smart shit sometimes, or
yeah.
people that hustle. I was a
That's a
hustler,
better
you
word.
know what I
That's
mean?
a
I
better word,
hustled.
yeah.
Like even when I had less money, I figured out how to eat like a king.
Hell yeah.
That was one of my
I
things.
respect that. Hell yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Like, that's real life, man. I'm just being honest. People won't admit that shit. I'll admit that shit. It got harder with the cards because you'd have to get their card and then have to give it back to them and do that whole dance and stuff. Yeah, but I did that too.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
You got to do what you got to do.
Hell yeah, man.
So there's been discussion for a long time about what they can use it on. Like there's actually at the Burger King down the street from here, there is it on Ellsworth? It's on Ellsworth, right by Fry's. You know what yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going that way.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. They have a big sign in the window. They accept SNAP. You can take your food stamp card into Burger King and get Burger King.
I didn't know that was a thing. That's crazy.
And you can get pretty much about anything. I think some states maybe have different rules, but for the most part, you can go in and buy about anything you want. You can't buy like cigarettes and that kind of stuff anymore. I don't think you can buy alcohol, but there are some people that want to extend it and say you can't buy highly palatable processed foods. You can't buy, Doritos with it. Now, that money is meant to supplement. That means the people should have some other cash, at least some of some kind. If they want to spend their own money on that, you're not going to stop them. But using their government card, now this is your tax money that's being used to help someone. Should we really be in a government program supporting people buying foods that are not healthy? That doesn't really make sense. So some states have been trying to clamp down on that and change the rules. Texas was one. And there was a representative from the American Heart Association at a hearing not too long ago who testified. And this Joe Rogan clip actually describes it. So let's listen to that and talk more about it.
American Heart Association opposes the SNAP's sugary food drink regulations. That's what it is. American Heart Association opposes a Texas bill that would restrict using SNAP benefits to purchase sugary drinks and processed snacks. Critics question if corporate funding influences the American Health Association's policies. The AHA's opposition has sparked criticism over its history of receiving funding from major food companies like PepsiCo and Coca-Cola, raising concerns about conflicts of interest. An AHA spokesperson said their position on the Texas legislation was miscommunicated. They say the organization has long favored the USDA using its authority to increase the consumption of healthy foods and decrease consumption of sugary drinks. So they changed their opinion, probably based on controversy.
They got some pushback.
Okay, I often say, look at this. During the hearing, lawmakers and public health advocates voiced their opinions. State Senator Lois Kolkhorst expressed shock over AHA's opposition during the hearing. I often say that I can never be surprised in this building, but for the American Heart Association to be against this bill, that might be the surprise of the session so far. It sounds weird that they would, I mean, it doesn't even make sense. That's obviously not good for you.
No.
Like, why would they encourage that?
That's the question. Why would they encourage that? Well, let me tell you why. He did allude to a little bit of it, but I pulled up the information, of course. In 23-24 fiscal year, they took in $907 million, almost $1 billion.
President Trump and National Security Advisor Michael.
Anyways.
Yeah, it's not that. Almost $1 billion. And pharmaceutical companies. See, now here's the thing. They don't publicly release who their donors are. They don't have to.
Okay.
But, you know, wouldn't it be good if they did? I mean, nothing's stopping them from doing it.
Unless you're trying
And you could tell your donors,
Yeah.
you know, if you do donate to us, we are going to, you know,
Put
we're
your
going to
name
be
on a plaque or
transparent.
something, Yeah.
We're going to let people know who donates to us. They don't do that. But we do know that from other sources, you know, people investigate and put together who the largest contributors are. And not surprising, number one is Big Pharma. Number two is Big Food. Big Pharma, Pfizer, Merck, Bristol Myers Squibb, Eli Lilly, Bayer, Abbott. All usually at least $1 million or more annually from those. It's a big deal. Big Food, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Kellogg's. There you go. And how about that? The big food corporations pay for AHA's heart check certification. They have to, for this heart check certification, you know, it's be like the Good Housekeeping seal of approval kind of a thing, right? That costs anywhere from $5,500 to $7,500 per product, and paying for that is the big food corporations are pay for it. So that's the revenue stream that they get from these processed food giants. And that's where they're asking the question there, you know, what interest do they have? Well, that's the interest. And again, there's literally no transparency around this at all. So in this particular case, it was the Texas House, you know, a House legislative session that they were holding this particular hearing, and just not very long ago, just I don't know,
Maybe a few weeks.
month or so ago. Yeah, it was fairly recently. And the whole thing was about SNAP, the use of SNAP, and restricting the use of food stamps to purchase soda and candy. Again, the goal, what can we do to reduce obesity and related heart disease? You know, again, that's getting into being diabetic, okay? Into being overweight, obese. And it's not, we're not banning shit from the shelves that it can't be sold. We're just trying to use the money the best we can and to get people to make better choices, and that they're not going to be able to do it with other people's money. Because look, who has to pay for it? If they're on SNAP, all right, what do you think the likelihood is that they're also on Medicaid?
Probably likely.
Pretty likely,
More
right?
than
Well, who
not.
the fuck pays for Medicaid? You do. So we're going to give them food stamps, your tax money, to buy shit that's unhealthy for them so that they can get sick, and then we're going to pay for their medical bills. That's a good plan. And not only is that not a good plan, why would the American Heart Association be against stopping that? Against, of all people, the American Heart Association. That makes, as he said, it didn't even make sense to Joe reading it.
Yeah.
But it's all about the money, people. It's always about the motherfucking money. They do not give a shit. That's what's different about this show, about this podcast. I actually give a shit. I actually give a shit about my clients. I actually give a shit and want people to be able to achieve their goals in health and fitness and lead the best lives they can be, so that they can be the best partner they can be, so they can be the best employee that they can be. And you can be much better at those things when your health is fucking good. It doesn't matter how good of an employee you are. If you're sick all the time, how good can you be? Because you can't be there. Now, I'm not talking about people that have a disease or something like that. I'm talking about just people doing unhealthy shit that causes it. But you have an organization dedicated supposedly to fighting heart disease, opposing reducing the consumption of shit that we know raises the risk of cardiovascular issues. That can only be about the money. And once that was put out there and was shown, like, what the fuck is the American Heart Association doing? Because you can't do anything anymore. The light is getting bigger and bigger. You can't hide anymore because the internet will find you. It's good at it. So when there's like these internet detectives out there, like I told you, man, they find this, they start pushing it, put it out there, what's going on? That's when Joe said that, they changed their mind. They actually had to come out, with a statement clarifying that person's testimony, their employee, whatever he said, yeah, that's not us. He didn't, that doesn't align with our stance now. So, that's changing. But, I mean, then I didn't see where they came out in support of reducing people's ability to use those SNAP benefits for those kind of foods. I didn't see where they did that. And why not? Because they still want those checks from Coca-Cola.
Hell yeah.
They still want those checks from Pfizer. Is that what they want? Probably. So it was, do you understand my conundrum now? Like, I got a friend, and I'm going to ask him, what can I do to support your kid? And even whatever they're doing, can I like buy him a price? Can I buy him a new pair of shoes? that if they hit whatever the goal is or whatever they hit the goal, but I don't want to give money. I want to support the kid, but I don't want to give even a little bit of money to the American Heart Association.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
that
I
makes
just
sense.
don't want to.
You'd rather support the kid.
But I do want to support the kid.
But not the actual
My friend's
association.
kid, yeah.
Mm.
And you know what? This particular friend, he probably doesn't know this story because he's a health and fitness guy too.
Oh, wow.
He tries to be fit. Yeah, military guy, former military, vet, just another good guy, Yeah. And actually, he was involved with me with the supplements.
Okay.
Too. He was a
Oh,
part
through
of our
the
part of
Thrive?
our team too. Did that too.
Nice.
Yeah, he liked the supplements. He liked the vitamins. Absolutely. That's kind of how we first got introduced to each other.
Okay.
So we've known each other. I don't know, probably 8 years at least,
Okay.
maybe longer.
So
You know
for a
what I
while
mean?
now.
So for a while.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We have a mutual respect, and of course, I support and do shit that nobody knows about all the fucking time, dude. I'd love to support his kid. I don't want to support the American Heart Association.
I understand.
Maybe I should go on Reddit
Good old
and
Reddit.
post it on, am I the asshole if?
Yeah, there you go.
Am I the asshole if I don't
I
want
mean,
to?
that'd be a really interesting
That would be
conversation.
maybe
Yeah.
a topic people would like. You know what I mean? Yeah. I
'Cause-
do follow that sometimes. I did check that to follow that, so I
on
get
Reddit?
some of those
Yeah,
stories.
yeah, you get
'Cause
into
they're
it a little
funny,
bit
man.
sometimes. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
No, but I understand the situation you're in where you're wanting to support someone, but
Yes.
you're not wanting to support basically what they're kind of working towards.
But they don't
unfortunately.
even. They
But
don't
they
even
don't
know.
understand.
They don't
exactly.
even know.
Exactly. So they're just doing it because they're doing. They
Because
believe
wouldn't
they're
it
doing
be
well.
good? Because it sounds like you're doing a good thing.
Yep.
I mean, how did the school get hooked up with it? Because it has to be partly with the school, right?
Oh yeah.
The school probably came up with this months and months before this story came out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense.
I mean,
it sucks that there's so many layers to it too, and that
well,
they're so deep
look,
into it. They
and
can't
I'm
just.
not against these organizations having to show that they're legit and that they actually do good work, and that a majority of the money goes for the research or whatever, or in the case of, are you familiar with the Wounded Warriors Project?
I've heard of it, but I'm not too
Okay.
familiar.
So they were in some controversy a few years ago.
Okay.
There was, I guess whether or not the money or what percentage of the money was for overhead and what actually went to the Warriors and stuff.
Gotcha.
But it actually worked out good for them.
Okay.
Okay. Because in the end, it came out that they were a good organization,
Okay.
that they weathered that storm. They're a good organization, and they're still a prominent organization for vets today. That's good. But that's okay to question. People should just question. I mean, it shouldn't just be about you giving just so you fucking feel good that you did something, Like actually do something for someone else because it's good for them. Not because, you don't get points from God for that shit, people. It's not about being good. God is about grace. So you can't earn your way in. You do not get extra points. It does not work that way. I know some people think that it does, but I'm telling you. And good thing it doesn't, because ain't one of us fucking good enough. We're not good enough to earn that shit. All right? It's God's grace. But quit trying to virtue signal what a good person you are. Don't buy a car because you're trying to virtue signal, look at how green I am. And then sell the car because you hate an orange man, and then virtue signal and say, I'm going to buy this American-made gas guzzler. I'm going to buy, a truck. Buy what the fuck you want because that's what you want to drive and it works for you. That's what you do. And if you want to buy it for status, buy it for status then. But buying it to virtue signal that you're some great person, buying an electric car does not make you a good person. Was it green electricity that you charged up that car with? Probably not. Ain't none of you motherfuckers attaching windmills to your fucking EVs. Stupid.
Imagine that. People just hanging off some electrical
Dude.
fans off the top of their cars. Gotta power it up.
Got it powered up, man. All right. So that gets into our next segment, which is MAGA, baby, make America great again. And so here's an issue. I mentioned it in the last podcast that I think, well, where we park, when we park at Footprint Center, is so close to the door that security's right there. And there weren't 5-6 cars in that parking lot at the time. And so, when a vet pulls up, people notice and they turn and look and you can hear it and stuff. And little kids love the car. And so do women of all ages. That is a thing, gentlemen. That's why I've always had cool cars my whole life. No matter how poor I was, I always had cool shit. And if people say, well, if a woman ever tells you, like cars don't impress them, they're full of shit. They are.
Yeah,
They're honestly, they're
they
full
like
of
driving
shit.
around in nice cars.
They like nice cars. Yeah, they do. If it wasn't a thing, guys wouldn't buy nice cars for it. We do buy cars for that reason too. But anyways, so you get out of the vet, the security sees you, and then he sees your MAGA hat. He saw the MAGA hat before he saw the back of my shirt, because the front of my shirt says Patriot on it. That's not going to offend anybody. So, but you can't really tell me, it's probably not going to go well for you to say you can't wear your MAGA hat in. And he knows that. And so he sees the back of my shirt that says 0 F's given, and that he thinks he can do something about. Because he can't do it based on the hat. But I still think that the hat has something to do with it. And so does Dawn. But we got in anyways, and because of a manager said it's all okay. It's just stupid. But anyways, nobody there. I got positive comments, or I got no comments at all about my hat. What you're going to see, this is like within the last couple days, this popped up, that this happened and went viral, is you have a crazy, lunatic, overweight, liberal woman, unattractive, because they always are. Really. I mean, they don't have any, they might do better if they had attractive women that was against MAGA. Because really, when it's ugly women that you wouldn't want to fuck anyways, nobody cares. I'm just being honest. It's the truth. Nobody fucking cares. But when you're overweight and unattractive, now you could be overweight and attractive.
It's possible.
It's possible.
It is possible.
Just, if you dress nice, style nice, absolutely. They're absolutely. But I'm talking
about
about
how common is it?
Right. Or, look, if you can be, if I was ugly, I'd want to be as fit as I fucking could. Because fit, ugly men do better than ugly men.
I agree.
Than just being ugly. Like you got to have an edge somewhere, dude. You got to get an edge somewhere. And that at least shows discipline and work. And, we can hide some shit. You know what I mean? We can figure it out. Yeah. But yeah, in this case, but it's just interesting that you never see a hot woman in any of these controversial videos that's going crazy. They're wearing a mask or whatever, because if you believe in your issue so much, why are you hiding who the fuck you are? You're at a protest rally for this, but you want to hide your face? Why? Why don't you want to see people to see your face? You're going to commit violence, and you don't want people to see who you are then? Is that why?
The only thing I could say is if you have a pretty corporate job and you end up on the news some way, somehow, that could ruin a lot of jobs.
Well, then you might want to think twice about going there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or, if you're so behind that issue, if it's so important to you, Shouldn't it be more important than the job? Can't you get a job somewhere else? I don't know.
Yeah.
If you really believe something, if you really believe it. But let's check this out, because I got to tell you, it infuriates me. But I'm not like, it infuriates me. It does. Because I do shit too, like, to give it a chance to happen.
What
Does
do you
that
mean?
make
What do you
sense?
mean by that? I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure.
Well,
Like to cause like some sort of like not altercation, but like like something. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
yeah, I mean,
Just to see what happens. See
well,
what people
it
do
was
or
Gay
say.
Pride Night
Yeah.
at
The basketball
so
game
there's
with the
a
Suns,
better
yeah.
chance of people who support Gay
against
Pride Night
to be up against the MAGA.
to
Yeah.
be against MAGA
Yeah.
and say something stupid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I could have wore just a Phoenix Suns hat.
But you wore the
I
MAGA
didn't.
hat just to see.
I wore the MAGA hat on purpose
Gotcha.
because
Just to see.
well, and I did have a little incident
Yeah.
with the
person that let
security
you in,
officer,
yep.
or the security person, and coming in. So, like, I do that. Why does that shit always happen to Troy? Well,
It might be a reason.
I'm cool if nothing happens,
yeah.
but I'm kind of setting it up to say, I'm kind of daring you. I'm double dog daring you. I'm double dog daring you, right?
I love that.
Let's see,
I
because
love
I
it.
hear all this stuff, and I'm just tired. I don't know who these, and you and I had this discussion before we started the podcast today. Pussy is not used. Calling someone a pussy is not done enough anymore. We used to call men pussies way more 15, 20 years ago than we do today. And I'm going to bring that shit back. When some dude is being a pussy, he needs to be called out for being a pussy. Now, most of the time, if I'm calling a man a pussy, I'm calling him a pussy because he's afraid of, well, don't you have testosterone in a pill? You got to use the needle, motherfucker. Don't be a pussy. And I will say that to him.
Hell yeah. No, I
And
mean,
they don't
it's
want to
true,
be a
though.
pussy,
It
so
really-
they
Exactly.
usually man up pretty quick.
Exactly. I think that was the best part of calling people pussy is like you're the person getting called a pussy is gonna start thinking like, well, am I actually? So they're gonna start. acting
Nobody wants to
different.
be called a pussy.
Exactly. No, I agree.
That's a trigger for you. Call me a pussy. Like, what do you mean? You call me? Do you not know me? Yeah. Yeah, see how that works out. But yeah, with the MAGA hat, let's see the video. It's not very long.
The
This
Catholic
isn't
high
it.
school students seen in this now
We just
Miss
had
Vi-
it. That was the old one.
He's a racist.
How can I be racist? No, he's not. Leave him alone. Alright, well, this is my stuff. I hope you enjoy the
She got face planted. Let it go again. Let it go again. I want to see that bitch fall on her face again. She put his hand on her head. Other people are just ignoring it.
You got a close up camera. Do you see that?
Yeah.
You got a close
Dude,
up camera angle.
but no offense, dude. Why you running? Because she's a woman? Because I got to tell you, I do not care. If you're a woman and you want to act like a man and do some kind of man shit and get in my face like that, that is not going to end well for you. Because I believe in equality.
Hell yeah. Actual
I am
equality.
actual equality. I am going to treat you just like I would a dude. And that is not going to be good for you. Do not think you can be a badass woman and do that. That is not cool. That's not smart. And what it's going to take is for somebody to get smacked to realize, yeah, that's not the game anymore. And that's what has to happen. What has to happen is the MAGA movement, we don't, they've thrown J6 at us. We don't want to be seen as violent people like the left is, the truly violent people. We don't want to be seen like that. So we've been turning the other cheek. Well, guess what? Your other cheek got slapped, motherfucker. Stop turning the cheek. Like to me, that's, even though I'm a Christian, I'm not Jesus. Okay.
You're
I am
turning
not
edge.
Jesus. So I'm going to only give you a little deference for a minute, or give you a warning. But you want, there's nothing biblical that says I have to be a motherfucking doormat and take other people's shit. And I'm tired of seeing these confrontations that taking their shit. That needs to end. That needs to end. And if I was walking out into the parking lot and I saw somebody key or spray painting somebody's Tesla truck, I'm taking them to the ground at the very least. Even if I don't, beat them up, I'm gonna keep them there, and whoever else, I'm gonna have somebody else call the cops, and I will detain you. And will I risk getting in trouble myself? Maybe, but I don't care. I don't care anymore. I did that when I was store manager for Value City, back in the days when you were allowed to chase
People at the store.
yeah, you were allowed to chase shoplifters.
Yeah.
And then because of lawsuits and stuff,
Yeah,
you
they've
weren't
changed it
allowed
over
to
the
do
years,
it,
yeah.
dude. Oh yeah, I chased a guy across the parking lot by the McDonald's, and when I tackled him and wrapped him up, he didn't want the cops to find that he had a knife on him, so he told me he had a knife on him, and I just held him there till the off-duty officer came over and took him. He said he has a knife in his sock or something. He pulled it, dude. It was a butcher knife.
Oh god damn. Man was running with that in his leg.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. You got that
Yeah.
thing tucked in there pretty well.
Yep. Yep. I got beat up with the chick's purse one time. I took her down too. I didn't steal the shit. You did. But then it wasn't long after that they started like
being a bit like, hey, you
being
can't do
like,
that.
you can't. So then people could just walk in and walk out with shit.
This still happens to
It
this day.
still happens to this day. It's stupid. It happened less that, and usually it wasn't just me. Like I would help a security person out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We'd be
yeah.
at different spots and, yeah.
I get you.
But
Like the cat and
I didn't
mouse
mind
kinda
doing
trap.
that. Yeah. I didn't mind doing that. It was cool. Yeah. They call me, hey, Troy, we got somebody. They'd always go back in the corner of the store where the shoe department was, where they thought they
less
couldn't
cameras
see.
or whatever, quote unquote.
Less cameras. There's a big
mirror.
mirror way up high.
That shows
That was a
everything, yeah.
two-way mirror. You could look down and see everything. Like people are so stupid.
You gotta love it. Hey, they're getting creative, They're trying to do their best.
Well, the best ones, the harder ones to get were ones that would hide stuff and you wouldn't see it if they took it into the changing room and then they put it on and put clothes over top
Yep.
and stuff.
Yep.
But, we had people like literally they would try to have like pantyhose or something or
And
something,
they-
have a
right
big
here
dress
so they
and
can just throw it in there.
they'd stuff a, microwave in there, like, no, that ain't gonna work. And they'd fight with you to get out the door,
hell
man.
yeah, they would.
But we fought back. That's all I'm saying, man. I'm not saying starting shit.
Yeah.
I mean, like I antagonize a little bit probably by wearing the hat, but that shouldn't be an issue. I've only ever seen one couple in the whole last year, okay, of the campaign and everything
Okay.
that was wearing a Kamala Harris t-shirt and hat.
I personally have never seen one in my
Yeah,
life.
Dawn and I did. I don't know maybe it was when we were driving to Vegas because
Gotcha.
it was some
Okay.
it was
Okay.
some crappy gas station off the side of the road or whether it was, and we just looked at each other. We thought like, but we didn't say anything to those
Yeah.
people.
I mean, yeah.
We could like I want to say something to people all the time. I want to say something to. Oh, yesterday, stopped at Costco, got gas. I know I don't fill up my car very much because Brendan does that. I don't get gas in my car. But we were there, and a woman and her husband were getting gas. She was in the driver's seat. He was putting the gas in the car. and he didn't have a mask on, but she did in her automobile, driving the car with her and her husband. She was wearing, like, if you still believe you need to wear a mask, I can maybe forgive you a little bit, but I can't forgive you for wearing one walking outside. And I can't forgive you for wearing one in your vehicle by yourself or with your spouse. I can't, like, you know, that's not a thing, right? Like, everybody should at least know that.
I mean, by now, after COVID, like
Right.
like if you don't know, then
You know, if you're going to go to a dinner party with 10 or 12 people and you don't know some of the people and you think you're susceptible for some reason, well, one, you should think about not fucking going. That's what you should do. But if you think you're going to wear a mask, I get somebody doing that. I still think it's dumb as fuck, but I can kind of get that.
Yeah.
But like the really stupid shit. I mean, do you know how bad I want to say something? Do you know how bad? And I'm not talking about even being mean. Sometimes, but more often, why are you wearing that?
Yeah.
Why do you still feel a need after 4+ years, almost 5,
It's been
really?
a while now. It's been a long while.
You still, that's how bad we fucked people up, dude. That there's still fucked up people doing that stuff. Troy, why do you care? I care that people buy into the bullshit. That's why I care. I just do. I care that people buy into the bullshit and the lies because they're going to do it again. It worked. The whole masquerade worked. They found out, the people that wanted to find out what would happen if in a pandemic, they found out.
Yeah.
What kind of power can we get? What kind of power will the public give us? How far can we push them? They found out. They know all of that information now. And if you don't think that was important to somebody, I'm telling you, it was. It was important to somebody. But this kind of shit, like, dude, why are you turning around? Why are you running from her? Why? She had no business being up in your grill.
Yeah, but he also doesn't look like a very confrontational person. I mean, not.
Well, but see, that's what I'm trying to say, though, too. At some point, these people got to realize you are not going to get away with that.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to get away with it. You are going to come across me or someone like me, and there's not a few of us. We make up the bulk of MAGA, honestly. We are not going to tolerate that shit. Not at all. You know, somebody else wearing a shirt, that's their business, man. You want to represent that way? Represent that way. And I'm going to represent how I want to. And even if I don't like what you're doing, I'm still going to be all for you being able to do it because I want that same right, that same privilege. I want to be able to do it. I don't want somebody telling me I can't. So you want to wear your Kamala Harris shit? Wear it. You want to wear MAGA sucks? Wear it. Tells me, what I wear tells you all you need to know about me. But maybe not enough because it should tell you don't fuck around. Make a better choice. But we're not going to tolerate this. We are not going to tolerate what we tolerated back in 2001. And where shit's just getting burnt and innocent people are getting hurt. That should not be a thing. Should not be a thing where, some 5-year-old girl is scared in her dad's vehicle because you're a stupid motherfucker beating on the side of their car as he's taking her to school. You do not have a right to do that. Not at all. And we got to end this shit. That's not. Fight, man. Fight at the ballot box. How about come up with a fucking idea? Have you heard an idea from the Democrats lately? Any idea? They complain about shit. They don't come up with an alternative. You don't hear somebody saying, well, I'm against this fraud too, and I think this fraud that Dodge found out is absolutely horrible. But we need to do it this way instead or whatever. Well, they've had their chances. They've all had their chances for 30 some years to cut government spending, to fight waste, fraud, and abuse. They've had 30 some years to do it and they haven't done it. And it may not be pretty and it may not be perfect, but for the first time, something is actually being done. And even if it's being done ugly, generally, we're pretty happy with it. Even being done ugly. As long as when mistakes are made, that they're corrected. And pretty much they have been. That's been a thing. So I'm all good with it. So they're trying to make people believe too that people who voted for this now are somehow having second thoughts. No, we aren't. No, we aren't. This is exactly what we voted for. This is exactly what we want. We want our administration to fight these federal district court judges in court. We want them to fight. We want it to go up the ladder. We want it to go to the Supreme Court and be decided, and we'll accept the decision then. But we want it to get there. And ultimately, that's going to be good for Democrats as well, because someday there will be another Democratic president, probably. Someday there will be. And they're not going to want some Republican district court judge in Florida deciding something for the nation, and the people or whoever, are bringing the issue are, from Wyoming or something, but their district court judge in Florida is making this decision. That's not how it's supposed to work. Federal district court judges were created by Congress, after the fact. That shit wasn't in the Constitution. These people should not have that type of power. Locally, maybe, but not nationally for sure. Or what they could do is they could rule that they are against it, but they don't stop the administration from being able to do what they're doing until the final thing is decided, that it's going to go up the ladder. Make their decision, and then it's pushed up, because either side is going to appeal. Whoever loses is going to appeal. All right? But putting a stop to the administration being able to get rid of illegal aliens? Who was it? Maxine Waters, like today, is mouthing off her fat fucking mouth about Melania Trump and saying some shit about Melania Trump, and she should be investigated and maybe deported, and, because of Trump's birthright citizenship issue. And so the first thing is, she was born in Yugoslavia. She wasn't born here. Her parents were not here and had her. Her parents were in Yugoslavia. She came here. She became an American citizen the right way. And then she sponsored her parents becoming American citizens. So this is not what we're talking about. Like, this is somebody like, how dumb are you that you don't have staff that can look this shit up for you so that you don't look stupid? Because you just look stupid when you don't know. When you could easily find out. Anybody could find out. I found that out. Where she was born, just to make sure. I found out. It's not hard to do. Anybody can do it. So nobody's trying to deport, and Trump is not trying to deport anybody who is here legally and as a legal citizen. But if you're here, you came through the right channels, and maybe you got an exception for, you're here on a student visa or some other kind of work visa or something like that. But if you abuse your privilege while you're here and protest and attack our country or associate with known terrorists, we're going to send you the fuck back home. You don't have a right to be here. Our rights don't extend to you. You're not an American citizen. It's just crazy that these people constantly want to support people who are not citizens and are in this country and support their rights over the rights of the people that actually are allowed to vote, are citizens, and you're actually the people who you should be representing and just giving them the finger. And you've been telling them that they're not important, and that's why you lost the election. That's why you lost the election. They're tired of all of these other people being more important than them. You know, traditional Democrats in Chicago are pissed off because millions and millions of dollars were spent on housing people who were illegal while they struggled. And they're like, you got money for that, but you ain't got money for me? I can't argue with them. I can't argue with that, even though I think, none of them should be given money. The government doesn't have business to do it. Most of the shit, realize if we really got down to it, and we could get into it someday, that if we really looked at the things the government does, and you want to bring up the Constitution and democracy and what we should really do, the government does, probably 80% of what the government does today is not constitutional. All the help that we give people when they're the victims of fires and floods and hurricanes and stuff, it wasn't, our system was not meant. Our system was meant that other people can help and help out, private organizations. But that was never meant for our government to do, to step in and take money from people and give it to other people. It was never set up for that. Not at all. Now, it may seem like a nice moral thing to do. I'm not arguing with that. But then do that yourself. It's not the government's job. If we actually got the government down to doing the job it's supposed to do, the government would be 20% of the size that it is today. Because they wouldn't be doing all the shit that they're doing. All right. That's enough. That's my rap. But be careful. I'm just a warning. Be careful fucking with the guy in the MAGA hat, because sooner or later, you're going to fuck with the wrong MAGA. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy.
Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces.